So yes, what are the other good practices that you should be doing when you're writing functions? I know we started off with the time complexity, but looking at the code, I figured it's better to also talk about the fundamentals of writing program before you. Time complexity is definitely a good idea to learn, but we'll wait. Jayashree, are you there? Or adding underscore ma'am. Okay, why is that? Why should we add underscore? What happened? Your mic is not working, or can you expand on why we should be adding underscore? Network issue. Okay. What do you guys the other two think? Should we be adding underscores? Underscore to what? Where? The
Like
function
she
name?
might be saying while giving a while naming a function, we
Hmm.
can't use a white space, no, so that it will be meaningful if we define completely.
Hmm. What?
Like that, she might be saying. I think.
I see. Okay, I do not understand that part. So that part will be the underscore is in case of space if you want to use it, sure. But again, there are naming conventions that people use. Um, like if your function is called add two numbers, right? So you cannot say add space two space numbers, and you also don't want to type something like I'm just typing it in the text the here two numbers. You don't want to do this because it's hard to read. So what people do is add two numbers, right? You do some things like that in the Pascal's. So these are all standards the company will define. What is it that, and what she probably is saying is add two numbers, right? That's probably that what she says by saying, adding an underscore. So basically, if you want to separate two verbs or two words in your function name, you try to add a thing. But I prefer the one using the capital letter. But when you go work in companies, companies will tell you these are standards that they maintain. Companies maintain a coding standard. Companies maintain based on the language you use. They maintain what the whether to use the Pascal case or the Camel case, or they have names for it. So I wouldn't call it as a I wouldn't say using underscore as one of the best practices. But yes, naming it properly that is the best practice. What else? We talked about the names at line number definition of the thing. How about line number 17? What is the purpose of line number 17? And does that have anything to do with good practices of a function? What is line number 17 doing? What is
It's returning place.
returning a variable? Again, when you talk about
Yeah.
good practices, what can we talk? What can we say about returns? Should we return? Is it okay? Even if we remove the return code, return line number 17, the code is going to work, not work? And what is it that you would return in a return? Well, the code will work. Meaning return is not
We have
mandatory. Hmm, go ahead.
no one will complete process.
No, I was going to say, yeah, return may not be mandatory, but is it a good practice to always have a return or not?
I usually do that, but I don't know whether it's a good practice or not.
So what do you think? What do you think? What is the purpose of a function?
It returns man.
Okay, but what is the purpose of a function? So it's better, when we have when we write code, one of the things to look at is how to make code readable for your own purpose and for people who read your code later, right?
Yeah.
So what is the other purpose of function? When I ask students why do we write functions, you guys tell me, why do you write functions?
Reusable.
Reusable. Okay.
Like if it is if you want recursive, like again and again.
Again and again. Sure. Yeah. What else? Reusable is the first thing that comes. That's what Everybody says, which is true. Functions make you, you don't have to write the same code over and over and over again. What else? What are the other reasons you would write a function? So,
Storing the results and using it for the other purpose.
say that again.
Like storing the obtained result and use it for next steps like that.
Why can't I just copy paste the same code in the instead of in your at line number 19 where you call your function, I can just replace from 10 through 16, right? I can just put it and be done, right? Why do I have to go put it in a function? Right?
Mm.
The code will still be the same. Just copy paste line number 10 through 16 or maybe 17, something like that. But that's going to work. I don't have to go write a function. Why are we doing it? So in this case, yes, we are not reusing it. Maybe if you call the same, if you run the same purpose, same thing for two different numbers. First, you are doing it for x is 5, and then let's say you are doing it x is equal to 7. Then yeah, it's a good idea to write a function because you are calling the same steps more than once. So that is your reusability. What else? What are the other main reason why people use functions?
Like particular function has specific aim to what it
Purpose.
should do.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. And
if we simply declare all the outside the function, it will be hard for us to find out. So if it is inside one particular function, so we can easily say, so we have the function for the some particular purpose. It will return this, so we can easily recognize that.
Exactly. I don't know if the other two got it, but yes, that's exactly what mainly functions are for. Not mainly, one of the main reasons is when you have a big problem. Normally, when you are working in a company, when you are developing an app or whatever, it's not going to be just this one purpose, right? In this case, you are solving problems that are very small. But in general, when you are writing long applications, you will do many different actions, and you'll be solving many different small problems within your big program, right? So when you are solving many small problems within one program, it's better to keep them all in separate functions so that it's easy for you to debug later, understand what's going on in your code later, and for somebody else to come and work on it later too. So I think the example I gave the Python 1 class is how to make idlis. So if I'm going to write a program I'll go fast in this case in your class is if you're going to make idli, let's say you are writing a program to make idli. Okay, don't ask me how to write a program to make idli, but just imagine that you're going to be writing an application to make idlis. What will be your functions?
Preparing batter.
Okay, one. That's one. Others. The idli you're starting with making a batter. Okay, can I divide that into functions?
And cooking duration.
Come on, others also. Tell me what other functions you will have, and how can you make it items? Items as in the ingredients. Okay, is that a function? Ingredients is a function. What will be function? So again, because in the interest of time, I'll go a little fast. So when I say I want to make idlis, so idli, yes, batter is one thing, but how do you get to the batter? We can start from there. So the idea is when you say items is the ingredients. You have first the process of you need to soak them, you need to grind them, and then you need to pour it in your molds, and then you need to steam it. So you can say there are 4 functions to it, right? And you're not repeating any of this. Maybe making the idli, you make it many times, but getting up to the first step, you're not repeating any of it, but you do have 4 different steps that you have to do to get to idli. from the raw ingredients to get to the idli. You need to soak it for X number of hours. You need to grind until whatever texture it becomes. And then you need to pour it in whatever shape that you like. And then you need to steam it, right? So these are the four functions to make idli. I will make it into four functions, even though I'm not repeating. The reason is sometimes when I soak, some people soak it for, I don't know, 2 hours. Some people soak it in the fridge. Some people soak it outside of the fridge. They can do however they want to do in their soaking. Same with the grinding. You either grind it in your mixie, you grind it in your grinder, you grind it by hand. Many ways of grinding it. Same with whatever comes, right? So let's just take the soaking and the grinding. If I take functions out of it, when you first write, you say that I'm going to soak, my soaking algorithm is soak it for 5 hours, just soak it in the countertop, outside of the fridge. And then the same idli program goes to, let's say Amulya was doing it in India. Same idli program comes to me it comes to the US, and I'm like, okay, this program is not going to work in the US for me because my grinding method is different. So I don't need to understand your complete idli making program. All I have to go is go find where the grinding function is. Just look at the grinding function and modify it to fit my US style. I don't need to understand anything else that goes on in the program. It's very easy for me. All I know is, idli making involves 4 steps: soak, grind, pour it in the mold, steam it. So those are the 4 steps. I know that I only need to change my grinding. Instead of looking through the entire code, just go to the grinding part of the code, modify what I need to modify, and then run my program. Very, very easy. In real life programs, your code is going to have thousands of functions, thousands of such steps in getting to what you want to do. By putting all those related steps in a separate function, it is very easy for people to go make changes in that place. That is one of the main purpose of this modular programming. You are dividing your big problem into smaller problems. Whether you're going to reuse or not, it's a different question. But you're going to split it into smaller problems so that people in the future, or whoever is writing the code, it's easy for them to debug. It's easy for them to go modify if needed. That is the reason why you are writing it in functions. Do you guys get it?
Yes,
Understand? Was I too fast?
no.
So that is why we are doing it. So keep in mind when you start developing big applications, which you guys have not done yet, especially when you are developing projects and all that, you will see that every little thing that you do, you put it in a function. And then when you look at the main code, this idli example, it will be very clear. Soak, and whatever is the output of soak, which is soaked ingredients, call the grind function. Input the output of soak is the input of grind. Output of grind is the input of pouring it in the mold, and then output of that is the steam. So it will be a lot easier to see. I am soaking, grinding, whatever, steaming. And if I am interested in learning how the soaking is done, then I'll go check the soaking function. Otherwise, just that tells me exactly what's going on in my program. Very helpful later. So keep that in mind. And when the future, when people ask why you're using functions, you need to be able to explain it. Okay, so that's that. Back to what we were talking about, the return and all that. I was asking why do we have return? So a function's purpose is, function has to be focused, very focused. Function has to be very focused. If I'm talking about soaking, I should only be thinking about soaking. What do I need for soaking? I don't need to worry about, is this soaked rice going to be used grinder or a mixie? That is not my worry, right? My purpose of this function is soaking only. So return is something that gives whatever was expected of this function, it is going to return just that. So when I say soaking function, it has to return what soaked rice and dal or whatever it is. It's going to return just that. It's not going to tell me how the soaking was done. Did I soak it in my fridge or did I soak it outside of my fridge? That is not something I would return. I would just return, you gave me something to soak, here I soaked it and I gave you back what I soaked. Right? So that way, return is also important in deciding what is it that you are returning. Can I use print statements inside the function? In my soaking function, or even in this case that you are doing, the function, your function is the pairs is what, another set. Can I print the values of pairs inside the function? Can I use a print statement inside a function? This was one of the questions the students asked. Is it okay to use a print statement in a function? Yes, no?
No, I guess, ma'am.
You
If,
would-
if yeah, while you if you use like if else statement, you usually print for that particular loops.
Hmm.
Otherwise, return only for a function. We usually return them.
So you don't
Like
use print.
yeah,
Okay, why or why not? Why should you print or why shouldn't you print? Somebody else. I don't hear anybody else, other guys. Jaya.
Yes, ma'am. We can like in some cases when we don't want to like return the like a void function, we are not returning anything, so we can like use a print statement.
What function?
A void function when we are not returning any,
Okay, then use a print statement.
then we can use a print statement.
Why would you use a print instead of, if there is something to tell the user, why wouldn't you return it?
So I know.
So you're saying if it's a void function, if you're not returning anything, then you're saying you can use a print.
Yeah, like to understand like what might be the
To see what's going on.
yes.
So if there is something, if you want the user to see what is going on, why wouldn't you return it? Why would you put it in a print?
Um,
So again, so I'm going back to the purpose of functions. Again, the reason I'm asking that question is again back to the purpose of the functions. So the purpose of the function is to perform a certain action. It should only do that action. It shouldn't do anything else other than that. Otherwise, it's called side effects, right? So its purpose is only to do the action. And if print is part of that purpose, sure, you can have it. Let's say I have a function that says print, add two numbers and display it. Sure, I'll add a print. And I will not return it because the purpose is to just print, not return. So the answer should be depends on what the purpose, but most of the time, the function should not be using anything that is not supposed to be done by the function. Printing is one of the actions because when you go print something, it's going to show up in the user's screen, right? The user may not want to see that output. All they wanted to do is you perform this function, the main code takes that output, and the main code decides what to do with it, whether to print or pass it to another function, and then do whatever it needs to do. So for that reason, you will not print. So the answer is, the reason I asked this print question is to understand that when you are writing a function, make sure you only write what that function is supposed to do and nothing else. And the return also, you return only the things that the function is based on the purpose of the function. You return just that and nothing more. Okay. So we were talking about the good practices for the function, and then that's what we are thinking about. That's what we are discussing now. How do you name it? Naming is one, definitely. It's very helpful. And how is this function working? What is it that you, as a global variable, when do you use globals? When do you use locals? All these are important discussion when you write functions. We have 7 more minutes. So with all this, Amulya, how will you change what you've written? This function here, the line number 9 through 17, what are the changes you will make?
like I'll change the function because no one has a guy told me that this thing my mistake, ma'am.
Okay.
So I usually when I do coding, I usually give a name as func only. Yeah.
Oh, nope. So that's the default func X, Y. This is, I think, one of the first things we try to teach our students is start using proper names. And oh, okay. Before, can you do a control Z on it? Go back to your, okay. Put your func. All right. The first question I asked is, if you're going to change the name of a variable or name of a function, if you go change func to something else, where else do you need to change? If you're going to call your function different with a different name, you need to change it in line number 9, and where else you need to change?
While calling.
calling the
Yes.
function.
All the calling that you have to do. You may be calling it in one place, you may be calling it in 10 different places, right? So
Yeah.
what is the better way to do it? And you guys told me I'll do a search and replace. And I said,
Yeah.
okay, what if you had a func and you also had a func1? So if you go change function, change and replace, it might go change your func1 also. So basically, you only want to change the func name into something else, and also make sure wherever this function is called, those are also changed automatically, right? So these IDEs provide a better way for that. I think this is called refactoring your code. So right click on your func.
Yeah.
Yeah, right click. Okay, so it's a lot of options. Do you know what each one of these things mean?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, it's better to understand. If you're going to be using an IDE for serious programming, if you're going to be using, in this case, Visual Studio is something you are using, anytime you are going to use any new tool, in this case it's IDE, let's say tomorrow you will be using an app or whatever, it's a good idea to go look at what is this, what can I do with it, what can I do with this app or this IDE so that my life becomes a little easier. Because again, you're talking about the time complexity of how the program runs. You also need to worry about how fast can I type, right? All my thinking, how do I get into my code and run it? How fast can I do it? And these are the areas that makes your writing the program faster. So yeah, there is something called the rename thing. There is something called the change all occurrences. There is something called refactor. I don't know the difference because I don't write code. But you need to understand all the difference between all three and see how you can use it in your when you are writing, when you are developing your applications. Yeah, try to do a refactor, and we can try. We can play with it and see which one works fine. You need to understand what does refactoring means. Okay, maybe not.
If I move to the symbol, move to the new file.
Okay, maybe not move. Move then. Okay, right click again. Try to rename symbol and change all. Yeah, you could do that too. Okay, call it something else. Scroll down a little bit. Yeah. 1 second. 1 second. Go back. Yeah, scroll down a little. See how both functions are highlighted. You see that?
Yeah.
9 is highlighted and that 19 is highlighted. What it says is, if you change that in line 9, it's going to change in 19 as well. So that tells you, yes, that's exactly what I want to do. So now change it to whatever you want to do. You see how it changes in both places at the same time, right? So this is what you want to do. You don't want to do retyping it or search it. No, you don't want to do that. You want to do what you just did. Okay, same with the X also, you can do that. If you do the X now, okay, do the same thing. Right click, yes. So it is changing all these, which is not okay. So this is not a right thing to do because the X in line number 9 is different from the X in line number 8. Why? Because X is a global variable. In 8, it's the variable name. 9, it is parameter. So this particular action you try to do, right click and change symbol, doesn't understand the scope of things, right? It just changes everything, right? So you don't want to do that. So that's when you need to find out, okay, then you don't want to do that. Let's make our line number 9, your function properly. You change the name of the function. Now give proper input parameter names as well, which means your list and X need to be changed. right? So for you to change the list, yeah. So how do you change that? When I go change the list in line number 9, I want only the list, the variable name list to change in line number 12. I don't want the list to change in line number 19 because two different variable names. Know what I mean? The list
Yeah.
that is in line number 12 is my input parameter list. The list in my line number 19 is the list that I defined in line number 7, not my parameter. You see the difference?
Yeah.
Right? So if you want to refactor, so that is there, try the refactoring part. So yeah, X or list, which either one you can change. Right click, do a refactor, and then
Yeah.
that it only highlighted that
Yeah.
two and not the one in line number 19. Right? So now, yeah, change it to whatever, not input list or whatever you want to call it. But do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
The way you initially written the code, how these things are different, and
It's
how
not working actually.
using it. You shouldn't be
Yeah.
using the same names.
It's not changing, ma'am. It's only changing here if I go back.
No, did you do the thing? Okay, call it list. Okay, right click, refactor, or whatever you did before.
It's highlighting, but
Mm-hmm.
it's saying no refactoring available.
Oh, okay,
If I
fine.
go back,
Got
yeah,
it. Yeah, that's fine. So by double clicking on it, what the highlighting says is that variable list is only used in line number 12. It is not used in 19 or 7. That is the underlying thing it says. Maybe refactoring does something else. I don't know. But so now right click on it. What are the options it gives? Okay.
rename
Yeah,
change.
change symbol, right? Okay, change it.
So,
Input
yeah.
something for the purpose of this discussion. This one, change it to input list or what? String. What is it? String. Why is it a string? There's still a list. That's what, right? There's still a, yeah, input list. Call it input list or something like that for now. Input list. Enter.
Yeah.
Okay. Changed
It's
only in those two places.
simple. Yeah.
Okay. That tells you that the purpose of the scope of that variable is only within that function, and the list that you had defined at line 7 is different. Okay. I think refactor comes when you rename the whole thing, change the function, and add new function, something like that. So it comes. We can talk about it later. Okay, we are past time. So we focused more on how to write good functions than on your time complexity or even the way this particular code works. It's totally sidetracked than where we started, but I think it's okay. Okay, so keep in mind whatever you learned today. Keep in mind when you write functions later, and change it. And we can continue in the next class if we have a next class. Okay, I'll probably have. You guys have class, I don't know, in the thing. Any questions? Any questions in what we talked about?